Can you believe that I'm gonna be talking about a Sarah J. Maas book that isn't Tower of Dawn? The Sarah J. Maas book I'm gonna be talking about today is indeed A Court and Frost of Starlight, which I read in a day because do you see the size of this? I mean, it's not that long. But I read A Court of Frost and Starlight and I really liked it, surprisingly. I thought it was really lighthearted and it felt like a family reunion because the whole inner circle's there celebrating winter solace and I just thought it was really fun. Plus, there is a sneak peek for the first spin-off book at the end of this book, so if you want to know what the first spin-off book is gonna be about, definitely go pick up this book because there's a super duper long sneak peek and honestly, it was really good. But I think that's all I can say without spoiling anything just because this is really short, so there's not as much as I can say. But if you haven't read it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, I would leave right now because, I mean, like I said, this is super duper short and you don't want to get spoiled for anything, so goodbye non-spoilery people. Alrighty. So, A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is so weird to be talking about this because it's been like a year since I read ACOFAS, which feels like 50 years ago. So being back in this world was super duper weird because I'm always rereading Tower of Dawn. So I'm gonna try and make this review as short as possible because this is indeed a novella. Like, it's less than 200 pages, so I feel like I shouldn't ramble on forever ever. So I'm just gonna be talking about the main stuff. First, of course, there is the ship, Faysand, which this book revolves around. This is kind of like their send-off. This is going to be the last time reading from their point of view that we know of. Of course, I mean, we don't know what Sarah could do, but this is like the goodbye to Faysand, and I honestly thought their story was pretty good. It was so hard for me to be upset with them because of how they were in ACOFAS while reading this because they're just so happy for once. Like, they're just laughing and smiling and celebrating Solace and Farah's birthday, and it was just like so nice, and I just couldn't be upset because they were just adorable. But that doesn't mean they didn't have their moments where they made me cringe, because they did. They had some dirty flirting in this book that made me very uncomfortable, and then later on we get the wall scene that a lot of people have been anticipating since ACOFAS, and it happens in this book, and honestly I don't know how to feel about it because then they have sex in their, like, in the mating bond in their brain, and that scene was really weird. But besides that, I'm just really happy for them and that they're building a future together because Rysand buys Farah a freaking estate for Solace, and they're talking about how to build it because Farah can pretty much build anything in this place, and he tells her to build a nursery in it because there's a lot of baby talk in this book, surprisingly. Like, I sincerely thought there was gonna be no baby discussion, but they do talk about having a baby. They're gonna start trying, and he was like, build a nursery, and like they talked about the bone carver's vision and everything, and oh my gosh, it was so good. I honestly think it will be really good for Faysand to have a child because their child can be a living symbol of everything they fought for and to remind them how far they've come and that it's beautiful that they've reached this moment where they can't have a kid. So I've always thought that Faysand should have a baby. I know people can disagree with that, but I'm honestly really happy that they're gonna try and have a kid because they're like the first OTP who's gotten this far for me. So of course, like, if the opportunity arrives, I want them to take it because none of my other OTPs have had kids. So of course, like, I want Faysand to have one, so I'm really happy for them. Next, I just want to talk about Rysand as an individual just for a quick second because for the most part of last year after ACOFAS, I was super pissed off at him because I thought him sacrificing himself was pointless and he had no good reason to do it, and I was really, really mad. But after this book, though, I don't even care anymore. Like, I don't want to talk about his death ever because I just don't care. And yeah, it's brought up a few times in this, and it seems like both Farrah and Rysand are still traumatized from the fact that, yeah, he died. But I think that pain outweighs the joy they now feel that they have each other, that they're both still alive. And I think they're just content with the fact that they have each other, so they don't really want to talk about his death either and just want to move on from it. So I'm gonna move on, and I also want to talk about Farrah as an individual for a quick second because I'm so proud of my girl. She's come so far since the first book, and I'm so happy for her, and I loved how she starts painting again in this book, and she meets this girl Rosanna, and they become friends to talk about painting and artists, and they decide to open a gallery together, and they teach free classes to everyone at Felleris so they can paint memories that are hard for them to talk about. And I loved all that stuff, and it was so wonderful. Next, I want to talk about the two other point of views that we get in this book, Cassian and Mor. I'm going to talk about Mor first, just because, first off, can I just say that Mor was robbed in this book, because she literally got 2 chapters in this book, which weren't even needed, and I hate that because I love Mor, and I was so excited to read from her, but then she got 2 chapters that had like nothing in them, so what was the point of having them? But then there's Cassian, who, his first like 2 chapters were also boring as well. Like, I love Cassian and was also excited to read from him, but nothing was happening. But then his last chapter with Nesta, though, things got heated up real quick there. I might as well dive into the Nesta situation because this is like the big thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about Nesta Archeron because, oh my god. So we learn in this book that Nesta has kind of secluded herself from the inner circle. She's living in her own apartment, she's going to taverns and drinking all the time, she's sleeping with a bunch of men, and Farrah and Elaine talk to her like once or twice a month, but Nesta doesn't really interact with them a lot or with the inner circle, and this kind of makes Farrah upset because it's her sister and she wants her to be a part of her and Elaine's and the inner circle's life, but Nesta is not here for it. I think what happened with Nesta is that the moment she was turned into Fae, she was literally thrown into a war. So the first month or 2 of her new Fae and mortal life was fighting in a war. So once the war was over, things settled down, Nesta finally realized that she doesn't want to be a part of this, doesn't want to be a part of the inner circle, doesn't want a fancy job, she just wants to be as normal as possible. So if that means living in a slummy apartment and going to taverns and drinking, like, that's her choice, which I am okay with. Like, you do you. If that's the life you want, go right ahead. And I didn't like the fact that Farrah was trying to force her to do otherwise. Like, Nesta is her own person and can do whatever she wants. But Nesta is invited to Winter Solace to celebrate with Farrah and the gang, and they're all opening presents when someone knocks on the door, and speak of the devil, it's Nesta Archeron. But I felt so bad though, because Nesta obviously leaves the party and Cassian goes chasing after her and is saying all this stuff. You know, Nesta, it's a feisty girl, and wasn't having it, and I felt so bad because Cassian had a gift for Nesta for Winter Solace, and Nesta just yells at him and she runs away, and Cassian just throws the gift into the river, and I was like, oh no. Now, I've never really shipped Cassian and Nesta. Like, I couldn't stand them in ACOFAS, but then in ACOWAR, I slowly started to like them. Like, I finally began to understand why people ship Cassian and Nesta. Like, it made sense. But in this book, things weren't looking too good for them. But it was no shock, though, that the spin-off book is going to be about Cassian and Nesta. First off, I just want to say that I honestly liked reading from Nesta's point of view. Wasn't expecting that. We get to see Nesta be made in the cauldron. We get to see that scene from her perspective, and when she pointed that finger at the King of Hybern, oh my god! And then the next scene is Cassian getting Nesta from her apartment, who is wearing a Maas t-shirt because she was fooling around with some guy, and honestly, it was so interesting to read about her life and her having sex and going to taverns and drinking, and just like, it felt realistic, because I mean, the things she does is what people do. But Cassian and Nesta go to Farron Rysand's new super duper fancy estate, and y'all, let me tell you, reading about Farrah from Nesta's perspective was something. Like, I don't know, it was just so interesting. But Farrah went off and I loved it. Rysand and Nesta are super salty at one another, which I never really thought of. Like, in the actual book, like, Farron and Rysand do talk about Nesta, and I just never realized how much they dislike each other. Like, I don't know why, but the thought just never occurred to me. But Rysand was forcing Nesta to sit down, and Nesta was just like, I don't take orders from you. And then Farrah was just like, listen here, buddy, to Rysand. She was like, stay out of it, okay, or else you can leave. And I was like, girl just really snapped at Rysand. I'm here for this. But y'all, I realized through that sneak peek that Farrah isn't messing around no more, because she just looks dead straight at Nesta, and it's just like, I'm kicking you out of Belarus. And then Cassian is like, you're coming with me to the Illyrian Mountains. I wasn't even excited for the spin-off novel. Like, I was seriously considering not even reading it, like this being the last ACOTAR book I ever read. But nope, can't do that, because I have to know what's gonna happen in those mountains, because this is Cassian and Nesta we're talking about here. Two very feisty people who, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them didn't come back, because, I mean, they're pretty feisty, and I can see them getting into some huge fights. But ACOFAS overall was very good, even though I think I just talked about that sneak peek more than the actual book itself. Whatever, I still really liked it. But thank you all so much for watching this review on A Court of Frost and Starlight. Please let me know in the comments down below what were your feelings on it. I would love to discuss this, especially the sneak peek. If you got some theories, hit me up, because I want to know how you're feeling about that sneak peek. Thank you all again for watching this video, and I am Courtney, and I'll see you all next time with new videos soon, so I will see you then. So bye!